Intelligent Psycho back in here. So yes, I got another movie review for you guys. Another movie review we got is the latest dark comedy film entitled The Drama. Of course, it stars Zendaya as Emma Harwood, Robert Pattinson as Charlie, Alana Haim as Rachel, Haley Gates, and Mamadou Abdi as Mike. Of course, this film is surrounded, of course, because of Zendaya and Robert Pattinson's relationship. So they played, of course, an happily engaged couple can't get a couple get put to the test with their unexpected revelation sends their wedding week off the rails. So I just got done seeing this film, and the main thing that is gonna be pretty much talked about is in the begin. The main thing that pretty much is gonna get talked about in this film, which I find is gonna be very controversial, is of course a few nights before or the night of, you know, during the week process during the whole week process of their wedding day. Mike, Rachel, Zendaya, Emma, and of course Charlie. All of them had like a sit down, like a conversation, and they talked about all of them talked about the worst thing that they've done. And I feel like that conversation was really interesting, but it's gonna beg the question of like, I mean, is gonna beg the question: can these things actually, can these things actually occur? And speaking of Zendaya's character, it evolves with her and her conversation sparking, a whole big hot button topic of discussion. It even got her boyfriend, which her fiance at the time, Charlie, which she's soon to be married. It even got him talking about the discussion, like, well, I'm not gonna really even spoil it, but if you haven't seen it, just go watch it for yourself. But just it had a whole big topic of discussion where it devolved around just, well, in particular, I'll just say it. It just revolved around, like, shooting, like basically her past, pretty much, about where she ends up talking about an incident where it almost caused of a mass shooting, a school shooting that she end up discussing. So I'll probably spoil in that part of the film, but I ain't gonna go into too much detail about it. But just it sparked a big topic of discussion in the film, and it's probably gonna start spark a big topic of discussion. And yes, there's a lot of toxicity uh, in the relationship between Emma and Charlie, like later on in the film as it breaks down, which I really like that we kind of explored a bit of the toxicity in the relationship. I feel like that was the big ordeal that really took me aback and took me by surprise, man. Took me by to its core. Not because I was surprised that, oh, the way the relationship was going. No, I've seen dark comedy movies like this before, so that's not what I mean. What I mean, it took me aback and took me by surprise was the it was more or less less argumentative. It was less argumentative, and it was less, controversial surrounding Emma and Charlie. It was more or less surrounding their friends that they hung around, and it sparked the whole discussion about just like, mass shootings and school shootings and everything. And for you guys haven't seen it, I'm not gonna go into too much detail. But for me, and my thoughts about where it's going, is like, again, I think it sparked so much dialogue, expressed so much commodity and controversial thoughts, to a point where it really makes you question your relationship. It really makes you question, like, do you want to still be in this, knowing about your woman, knowing about your lady has a dirty past, and has a past where, why she is the way she is, because Emma is deaf in one ear, and she told the story about, carrying her father's rifle. And so when she was talking about this whole thing, it's almost like her and her friends, and of course, soon to be husband Charlie, couldn't even believe that she even said this story, even omitted it. But it's like, well, when you have a discussion about the whole, incident, when it comes to, like you said, you were young, you're adolescent, you didn't know what you was doing, you was meddling, you was in other things, other businesses that you shouldn't have been involved in. And then, of course, your surroundings when you're in lower grade school, in high school, when you're in your surroundings, you don't you realize you made a mistake and you couldn't admit to it. So again, like I said, Emma and Charlie's relationship got put to the test after she told this story, um, and it goes beyond rapport, and it gets to the point where it gets super muddy, it gets super like all over and watered down. Um, and in Charlie's case, he has sort of like panic attacks. He has a lot of sort of anxiety. He's feeling himself like, he has certain things that he just don't want to. He feels like closeted, feels like very close-minded. And a lot of people are not going to like Robert Pattinson's character as Charlie because at certain points he feels like, I guess, closed-minded and very closeted, but at the same time, where he continues to question, and that's another thing a lot of people are not gonna like about it, is he continues to question, Emma about the story, about the incident, because it's almost like he couldn't believe, what she told. So people are really gonna question Charlie's character, are really not gonna like his character specifically because he's so defensive, in a common defensive mode, a common defense mechanism. And that's the thing that I really feel like needs to be paid attention to. If you didn't know, that's Charlie character played by Robert Pattinson. And of course, Zendaya is Emma. But anyways, like I said, a lot of people are not going to like his character in the film. And Zendaya, her character was fine. I actually like her character a lot in here. And she played in a lot of other different relationship movies, from Malcolm and Marie with her and David Washington. Of course, she was in the hit series on HBO, HBO Max, Euphoria. That's going to be having its third season come out. She was in there. Um, and I believe, and also she was in the sports drama movie called Challengers, which I found to be very overrated. So she's been in a lot of stuff that I have mixed feelings of. And then, of course, she was in Spider-Man Homecoming. And actually, she is dating Tom. She's actually dated and married to Tom Holland in real life. Not just in the Spider-Man movies, I thought that was very cool. But she was really good in here. I like Zendaya's character as Emma. I actually really, really got down with her character because in the other films, I found her to be a little bit more annoying. But, and the reason why I found her to be a little bit annoying in some aspects is because her tone, sometimes her mannerisms, and just her overall appearance just became a turnoff. Whereas Robert Pattinson is concerned as Charlie in other films, I just found him to be more, more or less serious, more or less aggressive, more abrasive, more assertive in his roles. And I really feel like he knocks it down. And I feel like their chemistry works in here. I feel like their chemistry works well in here. And again, it's going to spark a lot of controversy evolving around their relationship, evolving around like the whole topic of conversation when it comes to, school shootings and mass shootings because, Emma told that story. And I feel like it's going to spark that, and it's going to have that conversation by the end of the year. But again, when you go into this film, just understand that Christopher Borgli wanted to send a message. The producers, and I believe Ari Aster was behind this as well. I feel like all of them and the writing team wanted to send a message that no matter through the times, no matter through the thick and thin, you still want to have your significant other. You still want to have your significant other, evolve and evolve with each other, no matter through the rough times or through the thick and thin. And I feel like that was the very most important thing that they wanted to get off in this film. And I really felt like they got it off well. So the biggest takeaways I would say in this film, of course, was the acting. The biggest positive was the acting between Robert Pattinson and Zendaya, like I've already said. The biggest thing was, and also the second biggest thing was the visuals, was the actual camera work. I thought the camera work was great. It through a couple of shot locations, or surrounding and a couple of shot locations on the facial expression between Charlie and Emma. A few camera angles showed Mike and of course Rachel. Their camera angles were reacting to Rachel. I mean, it was gonna be Rachel reacting to Emma telling that story. I thought was really great. And I also really like the overall photography, the overall camera work and lighting. I thought the lighting and the photography was great. Now, the only thing that I would say is a bit paper thin, and my biggest criticism, I would say, is the overall story, is the overall premise. And I feel like it felt a little bit thin when we got to that second and third act. It really felt like they was trying to, it was carrying itself on fumes, and it really didn't amount to what I was expecting and and the twist and turn of what I was going with it. And sometimes I feel like the double-edged sword in the twist, involving Emma and Charlie's relationship when we get to their wedding. I feel like that I kind of was like a bit. It was a bit too tad and paid by the numbers. But other than that, I think this film was very entertaining. I thought this film was very solid, and it's gonna spark some controversy, but it's for a necessary reason and for a necessary cause. So I highly recommend this film. I give it 3 stars out of 4. It's definitely well worth seeing. I was like I said, I was just getting out of the movie theater and seeing it, so I'm rushing to get this review out for you guys. But other than that, check this film out and tell me what you guys think down in the comment section down below. Uh, I am out, and yeah, get more reviews like this coming for you. All right, peace. Oh, and hey, what's going on? Matt be getting money. Hey, what's going on? You said the day is overrated. Lizzie Roble, 61195. Hey, how's it going? Sanel Pole Jack. Hey, what's going on? And Amina. Hey, what's going on? How you doing? But anyways, I'm out. Peace.